Slept on Cinema is sponsored by Training Ties, the ultimate shoe tying tool. If you know someone who's struggling with shoe tying for any reason, Training Ties is the perfect solution.
The movie seems intent on destroying itself.
The only crime here is the theft of my precious time.
It stands no chance of being mistaken for a good movie.
Dreadful.
Not as worthless as it looks, but close.
A cinematic crime against humanity.
I dread ever having to see this turkey again.
Judge, jury, and executioner of my good taste.
Mostly forgettable.
If Judge Dredd were a mutant power, it would be the ability to make audiences cringe.
Welcome to this week's episode of Slept on Cinema. I'm your host, Stan Steamer.
And I'm Grove Street.
And this week we're getting into the 1995 action classic, Judge Dredd. As always, this movie is awesome. So good.
And another set in the past, but also, set in the future, but made in the past, which is always a fun dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this does fall pretty squarely in our wheelhouse in a number of different categories. So.
Yeah. Including the best actor, or my favorite actor of all time, Stallone.
Oh, yeah. This thing has it all. It kind of blows me away that we haven't done this yet. This is episode 47, and we're just now getting to Judge Dredd.
We've been sleeping on this?
We have been. Yes, we have. So as always, all the films that we review on this podcast are at or below 50% on Rotten Tomatoes for both critics and audiences. And we structure the podcast so that the first half is spoiler free, talk about some things to look for in the film, take a break, go watch the film, come back, and talk about some things that we just went through.
Let's get into the rotten premise. In the crime-plagued future, the only thing standing between order and chaos is Judge Joseph Dredd. His duty, police the violent metropolitan sprawls that crowd the decaying earth and kill criminals on the spot if necessary. The tables are turned, however, when maniacal ex-judge Rico frames Dredd for murder. But as his opponents soon discover, not even a prison sentence can stop Dredd from doling out his signature brand of justice. Critics, a lowly 22%, and audience, a lowly 30%. Absurd.
Totally ridiculous. Makes no sense.
I think I watched this 4 times for this podcast, and it was, some of the movies get better as you watch them, some are better when you start, and every single time I was just like, this is a fun movie. There's obviously room for it to be better, but I can't believe these low scores in general.
Yeah, and I really don't have a ton of background on this, and I'll get into the numbers. It opened June 30th, 1995 at number 5, which is crazy to me. Took in $12.3 million. It was week number 1 of Apollo 13. So that came in number 1. Yeah. What are you going to do? That sort of took all the money.
Hanks, right when he's just healing. What are you going to do?
Prime Hanks. There's nothing you can do about that. So it was sort of like everyone else came in second pretty much. So 5th, 2nd, 10th, whatever. It's all the same. So it came in second more or less to Apollo 13, which is still pretty good.
This one had more action figures than Apollo 13.
I'm sure that it did. Yes. It was also week number 3 of Batman Forever, another slept on episode. That came in at number 3. So that was still going pretty strong at the box office. Ended up taking $113.5 million globally on a $90 million budget. It didn't do great domestically, but did pretty well abroad. It's talked about being a huge flop, but I would not say this is a huge flop. So, but really not getting into much of the background. Obviously, it's based off a comic book that was sort of a subversive look at society, and I think that can be a tricky thing to put into a movie when your main character is one of the greatest action stars of all time. And Stallone has sort of, I think, had mixed feelings about the film overall. He sort of said, and you'll see this, and this is not really a knock, but just this is the reality of the film, that it came from an era where a lot of the movies that were making big money were these sort of action/comedy films. And this film does have sort of 2 feet in 2 different worlds to some sense, and it can't totally figure out where it wants to be. And Stallone has talked about that even during the filming, it sort of was flipping back and forth. No one was really sure what was going on. And you can feel that to some extent. I don't think that takes away from it. I think it's sort of certainly something that maybe if you were going to redo it, you'd polish that up a little bit. Still just a fantastic film. I think it has a little bit of everything, and you don't really need much more to go into it.
Yeah, we weren't exactly pros at turning comic books into movies back then, so just having it happen was kind of enough. If you were a fan of a comic book and all of a sudden there was a movie about it, that was incredible to begin with. But they weren't exactly masters of transferring the comic books, even though they put them all on the screen, into the movie. But I think if you look less for the faults and more for the fun, you'll get a lot out of this movie.
Absolutely. And I think they did some of the best, especially for this era, just the visuals of the comic books.
Phenomenal.
I mean, the visuals in this film are amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I have it written just Mandalorian-esque almost with like the visuals.
Oh, yeah.
If you like the Mandalorian, you're going to get a lot of that stuff during this movie.
Yeah, I'm sure that they were inspired by this film. Have to be.
Let's jump straight to Bolos.
Let's do it.
All right, Bolo comic books.
Yeah. Right off the bat, you'll see that. I'm going to say Bolo flying cars. I think we're still waiting for those, really. Kind of surprised they're not around yet, but in Judge Dredd, they're around and they're fantastic.
They're amazing. I'm curious, we'll talk about this later, but Bolo text that is read to you when the movie starts.
Oh, yeah.
Read to you very well.
Superbly.
Probably the best you can have something read to you.
Yes. I'm going to go Bolo James Remar. It's our second James Remar film.
Oh, I don't know if I can name the other one.
Fast and the Furious 2.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Very good. I had Bolo Dexter's dad. I didn't realize it was something.
Yeah.
Done. Good one. Bolo cargo shorts.
Still in style? I don't know.
For me.
I feel like they came back again.
Sure. I'm sure it will eventually.
Bolo, an ancient puzzle.
Bolo, the Statue of Liberty.
Absolutely. I'll follow up your other dad comment. Bolo, the dad from Dharma and Greg. I don't even remember watching this, but somehow I saw him on screen. I was like, oh, that's the dad from Dharma and Greg. I couldn't tell you what Dharma and Greg's about, but somehow I knew this.
I don't know who that is, but for those who do, I'm sure they'll enjoy it. Bolo, Blue Eyes.
Oh, yeah. And I'm going to follow it up. I don't know the technical name for this, but Bolo, when they're showing someone's face on screen and everything's in the shadow except their eyes. I'm sure it's got a word. It's probably French, but Bolo that. Perfect.
Bolo, Jim Brewer-esque saying man at the end of every sentence.
I will say Bolo spaghetti.
Sauceless?
I don't know where that sauce went.
Bolo emotions.
Yeah, good luck. Bolo garb of justice.
Very good. Bolo misjudging people.
I'll go Bolo a very tidy locker.
Bolo sweating.
I go Bolo Abbott and Costello.
Didn't see that coming. Bolo the bad guy in Beer Fest.
Great one. Great one. I will go Bolo an exceptionally graphic roasted human.
Very graphic. Didn't see that coming. Bolo recycled food.
Yes, absolutely. And Bolo cannibals.
Bolo Herschel from The Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm. And Bolo a very intense retirement party.
Bolo a long walk.
Bolo just a really great face scar. I think this was probably our best face scar yet.
Ooh. We can debate that real quickly, but if you remember Time Cop, there was a face scar in that later. It's up there in the pantheon of face scars.
Yeah.
I agree, it's a great one.
We'll have to get a side by side and just see them next to each other.
Bolo, a certain character, basically not blinking during the entire movie.
Who needs to blink? It's too much to see.
Too much to see.
Bolo, gun safety.
Bolo, great posture.
I'll go with another bolo of just a great muscle reveal. We've had some great muscle reveals in this podcast before. Obviously, think of Virtuosity with Denzel. This is another just fantastic muscle reveal.
Yep. So good. Bolo robot purring.
Some great robots in this film. I had kind of forgotten about how critical the role of sort of robots and cyborg type things play in this. It's great. This is my last bolo, but bolo well-timed thunder.
Oh, that's a good one. Ooh, bolo knowing someone would say something.
Comes up quite a bit.
Quite a bit. One more. Bolo, as we're both dads, similarly, bolo in accident.
Yes. All right. Drinks. Drink to pair with the film. What do you got?
I went down. I must have spent way too much time until I got to the bottom of the internet. And I think we talked last time about doing these drinks and during the podcast. Now that we're doing video, I'm not doing this one. My wife and I have a fun trip to go watch the Celtics play tomorrow in LA, and I am not having this tonight. But the drink is, if you really want to watch this movie the way it's intended, I would suggest drinking The Lawgiver or The Lawgiver 2. And let me explain this here. This is a tall glass of your standard whiskey Coke with a variety of shots around it. When you want to switch the Lawgiver to give a specific function, you drop a shot in the glass. So in this movie, there's a gun that has many features. And each one of those features, if you would like to play along with the game, you can add the feature to the gun. So there might be like, maybe the gun has a grenade. That's Bacardi 151. Maybe the gun has a signal flare. That's a fireball shot. Maybe the gun has a double whammy. That's an additional shot of whiskey. Ooh. And you put that in your drink and you drink it when you see it or when you want to. So You're going to have a blast. It's going to be a quick time. Something I couldn't do for this, but I was Googling like simple drinks about this and then just thinking, and then I just somehow got onto some weird website from like 1997 that had like the Lawgiver, and it was very specific about how to dole these out and had like shot glasses around the tall whiskey and Coke. So if you were to do that, I think that would be perfect.
That sounds amazing. It's definitely the most complicated and involved drink we've ever had. It's perfect. I feel like it'd be great for a Judge Dredd viewing party, which I recommend everyone does. It's also great because you see so many of these gun features early in the film, so you can really get a sense for what you want your drink to be from the film right off the bat.
You can do it right away. I forgot the armor-piercing round is Everclear, so just put that in.
Makes sense, yeah. And it's a short film, which is good because you will be on the floor pretty quickly after these drinks. But hey, that's what these movies are for. That's fantastic. Mine is not as involved, but it does bring up a familiar feature for friends of the podcast. So I have the Mega City 1 Mule, which it's really just a Moscow mule, but you throw in some blue curacao to make it look futuristic. So I thought that this film has, for some reason, I think Moscow mules are a little like steampunky. Maybe it's just the copper mug or whatever. And this film definitely has some of the steampunky elements, but then you got to throw the blue curacao in there for futuristic blueness. So
if we ever become a popular podcast, I don't know how we're not sponsored by Blue Curacao, because it comes up in almost every one of our drinks.
Absolutely.
Maybe we do a lot of future movies. I can't tell.
It's definitely whenever I think of the future, I think of Blue Curacao.
I think it's going to be the biggest drink. Maybe it's just time to have our kids start investing in Blue Curacao.
Yes, 100%, because there's no way that in the future anybody drinks anything else.
Why would you want something that was dull?
Right.
That's great. All right, well, you're going to have a blast, and you're going to get blasted watching these drinks.
Yeah, enjoy, and we'll see you on the other side.
As a city, we continue to grow.
73 citizen riots.
Come and get us! Throw down your weapons and prepare to be judged! Judge this!
Dredd, you're under arrest.
What's the charge?
Murder.
The evidence has been falsified!
Guilty as charged.
I never broke the law! I am the law!
You
You want chaos?
The sentence shall be life imprisonment.
I'm the chaos. Dredd?
Let me crush him, Paul!
You're a lot of fun to be with, Drake!
Mr. I am the law.
Slept On Cinema is brought to you by Training Ties, the ultimate shoe tying tool. If you know anyone who's struggling with shoe tying, Training Ties is the perfect solution. Or if you know anyone who just doesn't like tying their shoes, Training Ties keeps shoes tied all day long. Say no to Velcro and yes to independence with Training Ties.
Welcome back.
What a ride.
That was so good. I mean, we talked about this a little bit before the podcast started, but it's one of these things. It's obviously not perfect. It's not a perfect film. I'm not going to say, sit here and tell you that it is, but it's so much fun. It's a fun film to think about because there's so many ways you can make it even better. But I feel like that in a fun way, like it's just like I'm excited to make it more. And we'll get to this in the spinoff piece. But there's so much you could do with this whole world that they have here, and you get the sense that we're just getting a piece of it, and that's just a really fun sort of way to do a movie.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's so much you could do with this. And it's not flawless for sure, but it's so much fun.
So fun.
Like if you're fine with like the 90s were a little bit weird with some of the stuff where there was some fun ideas that weren't executed perfectly. They had, a comic book that wasn't the most popular and they tried to make it a movie before that was really a thing. And they try to stay true, but also want to make it, it's a Stallone vehicle, so they're going to show Stallone's face, which was a big problem for a lot of people who are huge Judge Dredd fans, is he didn't take off his helmet. But in this movie, he kind of had to.
Right, you got Stallone.
So you're not going to cast someone and put someone like Stallone and not put his face in the movie. So I get why some people had some problems with it, but if you just detach yourself a little bit, this is just a fun ride.
Oh, yeah. And Stallone was also just so the right guy for this.
Perfect. I'm excited. Let's just get right to the draft if you're cool with that.
Yeah, I got a lot here. And, some people might say this is crazy, but followers of this podcast know exactly what I'm taking number one. Everyone knows. It's obvious to me. I'm taking the opening intro. We've talked about this. Every time that words come up or there's narration in the beginning, we're like, man, the best thing we could possibly have would be text on the screen and it also being narrated to you. And not only do they give that to us here, they get the man, the legend, James Earl Jones himself to come in just for this. He's not in the movie. He comes in and just narrates the intro. It's amazing. It's the greatest thing I've ever seen for opening a movie ever.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Today I watched it to take notes one final time, and my wife finally, she watched it with me. She wasn't sure if she was going to. She's going to give it 10 minutes and she's like, I got to take a shower. Let me give it 10 minutes. Let's see if it's a good movie. And then James Earl Jones came on and narrated the opening text. And it's like, well, of course I'm going to watch this.
Yep.
That's the best way to start a movie. James, it's the perfect blend for what you and I like. Because I like opening text, but you don't want to read it. You want it to be read to you. It's read to you. And it's by someone that who doesn't want to hear it? I would listen to anything James Earl Jones.
Absolutely. It was amazing. I had a very similar experience. My wife was watching the beginning of this and she was just like, this is amazing. Because she has the same thought as I do. She's like, I don't want to read this. I'm watching a movie. I didn't come here to read a book. But then James Earl Jones is narrating it. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
I don't think there's a better first. That has to be the first pick.
It has to be.
Only just because of our attachment to opening text in movies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have. You picked the big one. I don't have a top tier pick. I have lots of second and third round picks. But this one, I got to give him. I don't think he's ever going to get another chance to be a first pick in our draft. So Armand Desante.
Ooh, nice.
how do you not just be captivated by him every single time he's on the screen? And he's the one I talked about. I think it took an hour and 23 minutes till he blinked. I don't know if it's the contacts or what, where he can't, but either way, he is just dialed in every scene. And it is just, I don't know what other, like, I kind of know him as an actor, but I don't really know what else he's in. But I know he's in this, and I can't believe he's not in a ton more.
I agree. It also, I got the sense from watching this that he seemed to have the most fun acting in this than anybody else. Like he just like dove in this movie headfirst in a way that none of the other actors really, even Stallone. I feel like Stallone was a little bit more handcuffed just by the character he was playing, and it was like had to be this stoic, unemotional guy. And Asante just rips it up. It's amazing.
So good, so good. So he's my first pick, and it's hard for me not to have taken Stallone since last podcast. I did declare him my favorite actor. So I'm not. I had to put Armand Asante ahead of him. And while this is a great Stallone movie, it's mainly a big part of his movie because of what he's notorious for. Even more so after this, which is Stallone's chin. We've had many. This is my second pick. We've had many movies that are. There was like the Croc, obviously. From I always forget the name of the stupid movie.
Lake Placid?
Lake Placid, yeah.
Yep.
And there's a bunch of movies we've done that have like had a movie built on like there was like The Fans and Daylight we did last time, and it's like just a little piece. We'll just build a movie around this little thing. And this was just like there was like 4 or 5 people that put their hands up to his face and just go, "Oh yeah, the jaw, yeah, okay, I got it." And you're just like, yeah, no, who else can you do that? Nobody can do that to my jaw. Be like, oh, I can't tell who that is. I can tell who that is.
I haven't seen your jaw in like 10 years.
I haven't either. But even most people I know, I can't tell their jaw. But when you see Stallone's jaw, that's the movie. And I think that's, if there was one person, although I said before the comic book people had a problem with him taking off the helmet because Judge Dredd doesn't take off his helmet, you could have known it was him from his jaw if you wanted to. Then you would have not got the face and the hair and everything else. I'm glad they didn't do that, but the jaw was incredible.
It's probably why he was never Batman, because it would be totally unbelievable. It's like, oh, dude, that's Bruce Wayne. Look at the jaw.
Yeah, you can't put on glasses, bro. We see your jaw.
Yeah. That's a great pick. My second pick, I'm taking the sound effects. Whoever was in charge of the sound effects, and I feel like that they really dove in headfirst into the comic book element. Like every sound effect is amplified just a little bit. It starts right off the bat with Judge Dredd. He's walking down the street and you just hear his boots hitting the ground and like the clanking and all the costumes and everything that they're wearing, just the guns. Every single sound is just, it's a little bit louder than it needs to be, and like to a very intentional, purposeful effect that just makes it amps up that comic book extreme sort of like the pow, like the just exaggeration that needs to be there in a film like this. And it's subtle enough that it's not like really in your face, but all those sound effects are just perfectly executed. And it's those little subtle things that I feel like make movies like this just that much more entertaining and fun.
Absolutely. The sounds popped out of that. I mean, I joked around a little bit that like you could hear a robot purring, but that's not an accident. Like there's sounds to everything in this.
Yeah, they absolutely nailed that. And it was just those little details that made these different scenes just come alive, that in ways that if it was just, walking down the street, you're not going to get that same feeling.
Yeah, we haven't picked sound effects in a while. That's a great pick.
Yeah, they nailed it. My number 3, I loved when this came up. I love the concept. I'm going with recycled food. It's a minor little thing in the movie, but I actually laughed out loud when the recycled food announcement came around. That cracked me up. I think it's such a thing from like a dystopian future that some sort of authoritarian government would force upon people and try to convince them that it's like, this is this great thing. It's so like visceral. Like you can just like be like, oh, it's just so gross. And like just the words recycled food, like, no, they would never call it that because it's so disgusting. And they have the little slogan, good for the environment and okay for you. It's like, it's like a little bit too honest for what it is. It gets me every single time.
So
love
good.
The recycled food.
Makes sense too when you see Mega City 1. and the building's that high, you're like, well, there's probably some filth issues here.
Yes.
And, the environment's probably suffering. So yes, eat your own food multiple times. Let's do that. So disgusting. Too.
So good.
All right, that was your third pick?
Yep.
My next pick is, I love the discussion in the plane when he just happened to be sitting next to Rob Schneider's character. And it was the first time they did that, like, hand over the eye, the jaw. But he's just talking about how, like, Stallone still sitting in that chair is like, the law doesn't make mistakes. And Rob Schneider's like, wow, what's the odds of two innocent guys sitting next to each other? And he's like, well, the law told you exactly what you got. He gave you exactly what you deserved. And he's like, well, then what about you? And he has nothing to say. He's just caught. And it's like, the good part about this movie is I don't really like the character Dredd. I'm not a big fan of that style of just basically killing people and being like, I'm the law. That's
right.
Awful. And not having any sort of system for being like, hey, can someone else weigh in here? I was just part of this action. Maybe I'm a little elevated and should not give this guy 5 years for no reason, coming out of seeing my partner just die or whatever. My coworker just die 3 minutes before. There might be some emotions involved here. So just that discussion where he was caught, and it's like my least favorite type of person that needs something to happen to them before they're like, oh, wait, that's not fair. And it's like, come on, man. You can't just put yourself in somebody else's shoes for a second.
Yeah.
It has to happen to you. And even when it happens to you, you don't even apply it to other people. You're just like, well, this is a one-off case that happened to me. Super, super frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's part of what Schneider's character is so good at. Is just like, it's like shining a light or like putting up a mirror for Judge Dredd. And it's absolutely essential because that's the whole thing. It's just, as you said it, like you're not supposed to like that Judge Dredd character. So he needs that sort of counterpoint that starts to swing him around. And Schneider does a great job in this film.
I don't know what this movie would have been without Schneider.
No, it wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have worked. It's also, I looked this up because I was like, how do they make Stallone seem so big? And my guess is that a big part of Schneider's career, he's exceptionally short. That's probably a huge value when you have someone like Stallone, who Stallone himself is 5'10". So you think of Stallone being this, like, especially in a movie like this, he's this like giant Hulk of a person. So you need these supporting cast that are much shorter so that he looks huge. So you think Rob Schneider is like a normal average height guy. He's 5'3".
What?
So yeah, he's 5'3". So then next to 5'3", anybody's going to look enormous. Being 5'3" probably made him a lot of money just because they're like, well, we got to make, so-and-so taller. Just cast Rob Schneider. He's going to look huge.
I had no idea who was 5'3".
I had no idea either. And you see him on TV, you're like, oh, he's just a normal height person. He's an average guy.
He didn't look that small next to Stallone.
Right. He looked like that's the whole thing. You figure he's like, I don't know, 5'10", 5'11".
He's
and
got
then
the Danny DeVito twins effect.
Right. Exactly. And I'm sure that's like a really valuable thing when you're trying to stitch together a movie and get a character. You're like, if you had, if Schneider was 5'10" and Stallone's 5'11", it doesn't work.
I don't think the comedy sidekick, the goofy sidekick, can be taller than the main person. It's just like there's a reason why Kevin Hart isn't 6'2". Like that wouldn't be as funny.
Right. Exactly.
That's a good one. My last pick. So many things. I think I just have to go with the music remix of I Am the Law. So if you haven't seen it, I'll probably post it on our Instagram. But the Armando Sante dubstep remix, I Am the Law, is just phenomenal. And I think most people might know this movie now from YouTube. And it's a little bit of a letdown when you watch it because there's no dubstep that happens. But if you just want to have a great 2 minutes, just Armando Sante, I Am the Law, and just have a great time on YouTube for 2 minutes.
Love it. Yeah, we'll definitely drop that link so that folks can check that out if they haven't seen it, which seems unlikely.
We'll give them a chance to see it again.
Yeah, right, exactly. My sleeper pick, I'm going with looking into somebody's eyes to see if they're lying. That's just, I love that move. It obviously makes me think of Curb Your Enthusiasm, but that move is deployed here. And it's just a great classic move. It's a great thing to pull out in real life. It's a great thing to see in movies. It just kind of cracks me up. But I like that there's some element of looking into somebody's eyes and being able to see if they're lying or telling you the truth. And I feel like there is. Like that feels very real to me.
Oh,
so I'm going that in my sleeper.
It's fun calling it out that you just need to look in your eyes.
Oh, yeah.
I think a lot of people do it on their own without the other person knowing, like, I'm looking into your eyes. But this was like, I just needed to look into your eyes. And
yeah.
Give me everything.
I do also have an anti-pick.
Oh, love it.
My anti-pick is anytime that you go into your office and somebody else is in your chair.
Oh, does that happen?
It's never happened to me, but it happens in movies all the time. And whenever that happens, it's terrible. Like something bad is going on. Like you never, ever want that. It's always a horrible development. Like it's never like someone was like, hey, I got these cake for you here. Every single time, it's bad. It's never happened to me. I do have an office. Fortunately, it's never happened, but I just don't even know what I would do if I came back.
You have a solo office? You got a door to your office?
I have a door to my office. But if I go to my office and someone's sitting, especially if they have the like back of the chair to me and then they turn around, I'm gonna have to walk home and I'll just like, send my last paycheck.
Yeah, just gather your things at that point.
Yeah,
Someone's
right.
facing the opposite way. Like I'm either gonna die soon, or everyone I know is dead, or I'm being fired.
Yep. Yeah, just probably run out the building and don't look back.
I like that. Even though like most 80s, a lot of 80s movies are based on, Mr. Johnson's out for a week. You take his job and make the company a bunch of money while you're unqualified. You can work at this company and get paid millions. It's sort of the dream in the 80s. Was getting jobs. That's good. That's a good anti-pick. I don't have an anti-pick. The only thing I almost picked was the world map. I thought the world map, the American map, I guess, was phenomenal with, I think, 3 cities and a cursed earth.
Mm-hmm. I think it also, did it have Aspen on there?
Yeah, it had Aspen Prison.
Oh, yeah. The prison.
It's like the whole
I didn't know
area.
if that was also like a city or just a prison city or whatever. I don't know what that was.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I took it as like a prison area, and then there's the cursed earth or cursed earth. I don't know which.
Yep.
And then there's, Mega City 1, Mega City 2, and was it Texas City?
Texas City, yeah.
Texas City, yeah. We might get to that later. The superlative you chose for this one, which is awesome. Favorite part of Mega City?
Yeah. My favorite part, because this really stuck with me in the beginning, and then it comes back a little bit later, the use of the Statue of Liberty. Like I loved that first visual where they're building this whole scene. You're seeing how cramped it is, and then you see the Statue of Liberty in there, and it's just crowded around like tenements, giant buildings all around it. So it's nothing. And it's this, it shows you the crowded nature of it. It shows you how much everyone has just cast aside this symbol of freedom and liberty. And it's just like, there's so much in there just with that one visual. And then I also like that they came back later and talk about how it's like, oh, that was when they moved the Statue of Liberty. So they're just like, again, casting this thing aside, just like dumped it in some neighborhood because they had to move it somewhere. I thought that was just a great little touch.
Yeah, it was great. They make all the convicts or ex-convicts, parolees, like fly by it every single time.
Yep.
They get dropped off in the new housing. Yeah, that part was great. When they showed it in the beginning, you were like, that's really cool. Is that going to come back? And luckily it did.
Yeah.
It's a good pick. I think my favorite part about Mega City, this is Mega City 1, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we don't know the traffic laws in other places, but in many other futuristic movies, like Back in the Future, they've worked out lanes, or even Fifth Element. There's like ways people go.
Mm-hmm.
Like even in a plane, you're not just flying willy nilly wherever you go. There's air traffic controllers and there's lanes you go. No lanes in Mega City. You have a car that flies or whatever. Just go wherever you want to go. There's no boundaries. You can fly directly there. You can fly around buildings, but there's no lanes. You can just go wherever you want. I like the freedom. Just get in your car and just drive in the air. And you don't, it sounds very dangerous, but they have other problems going on there too. But I just like the idea that you can just go wherever you want. No one seems to care.
Yeah. As long as you don't you're not drinking. There was that DUI incident.
Even then, he got 3 times, and he was about to get away with it again until Stallone showed up, and rightfully so, was arrested not for that, but just, blowing up a car in public with 2 cars. If I'm the car that's behind the car that was blown up by Stallone, I'm a little annoyed that
Yeah, like, what the hell, guy? I'm just trying to get to work here.
I went through a car wash 2 days ago, and there's like an exit light that says like, it just blinks or whatever, and it fell on the before the car in front of me.
Ooh.
And it was just dangling, and I'm just sitting there in neutral, and it's coming. And I'm like, I'm not going to be like, go back to Curb Your Enthusiasm. I'm not going to hop out of the car.
Right, you're trapped.
There's a car behind me, so I just bonked into this thing like 4 different times. and it just was what it was.
Yep. What are you gonna do? You're just that's just how it is forever now.
That's how it is. And switching into cars, bumper sticker.
Yes.
There's a lot of options for this.
There are a lot of options, but for my money, there's one pick. It screams out. I don't know how you don't go with "I am the law." I mean, that seems like the only answer here. There's a lot of good options, but there's one great option. It's "I am the law." It's obviously a risky bumper sticker to put on your car if you're not a police officer. But man, if you got the balls to do it, more power to you.
I can't believe more police. I know they're not allowed to, but I can't believe more police officers don't have "I am the law" bumper stickers on there.
Yep. Yeah, maybe you put it on your personal car.
Yeah, I have the same thing, and not the same. I had that obviously number one, but similar vein. You betrayed the law. That you betrayed the law is just a reason to drive angry. You just put that in the back of your car, and you just get mad at everyone because you're like, you betrayed the law.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a great movie for bumper stickers.
Just a little driving note. I moved from Boston to San Diego. Boston gets bad raps for driving incorrectly. Great drivers in Boston. They're just a little aggressive, but
drivers in Boston are aggressive. They're predictably aggressive.
Yes,
and that's you can deal with that because you know what's going to happen.
You know the game, and they're paying attention to be aggressive consistently without getting in accidents. You gotta pay attention. And Boston drivers pay attention. I'm out here in California now, in San Diego. There's 5, 6, 7 lanes. No one's paying attention. I swear to God, I couldn't take a picture because I was driving, and then I'd be that guy. I drove by someone eating. I know this is straight out of Always Sunny, but they were eating a bowl of cereal. It was either soup or cereal. I couldn't sense the hotness, but he was all over the road, and I was like, "What's going on with this guy?" In the right lane, it's a 7-lane highway, and he had this pink bowl, and he's just scooping into it, driving with his knees. That's an insane thing to do.
That is totally insane. Because I feel like there are ways to eat cereal while driving, right? Like you can put it in a big cup or a mug and just slurp away some cereal. Do it. Go for that. But anytime you have to be driving with your knees, you need to figure out an alternative.
Yeah, I think you can't go over 20 miles an hour with bowls of cereal that you're eating. Never mind 60. Out of control. But I'm just saying, the awful drivers here, and maybe I should put a bumper sticker, "You betrayed the law" in mine for cutting them off. And then I beep at them, and I get a middle finger. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, you're the asshole, not me.
Yeah. Worry about yourself, buddy, is what they have coming out of their head.
Yeah, I've wanted to give, for a long time, a citizen's ticket, much like there's citizen's arrest. I've wanted the ability to hand out tickets, just like citizen's ticket. Sir, here you go. It's your citizen's ticket.
You betrayed the law.
Yes.
That would get ripped up so fast.
Probably get shot. I'm also I don't even know what citizen's arrest is. There's no way that's real.
I don't think it's real. I think it's the thing people say in movies.
Yes.
One change to be a blockbuster.
So for me, we touched on this a little bit. This movie's trying to thread the needle of the action comedy. I don't think it's not comedy action, but trying to be the action comedy. And that's really, really tough. And I know that there were a lot of movies that were making a lot of money at that time period. And I think they were trying to do that here. But I think if you don't have the perfect script, the perfect director, the perfect cast, and everything isn't flawlessly done, that is exceptionally hard to do. And it can be tricky for audiences because people are used to, I want an action film or I want a comedy. And those mashups can be a little tricky for the audience. So, obviously there are there's the great action comedies Beverly Hills Cop is obviously maybe one of the greatest of all times. And there's the great comedy actions. Ace Ventura would be a great comedy action. And they can be done. And when they're done, they're amazing, like all-time classics. But when you're not an all-time classic and you're trying to do that, it can be tough. So I think if you're just trying to make it a blockbuster, I think you probably got to pick one end of the spectrum or the other and not go 100% that, but go a little bit more towards that. And I think that could be a little bit more successful. I think probably some people had a bit of a hard time with some of the bouncing back and forth between sort of tense action, dystopian future, and then the pretty lighthearted elements of it as well.
Yeah, so going back to the car analogies, you wanted them to pick a lane.
Right. Yeah. I think that would have made things it would have made things easier. I get why they were going for it, but it would have been easier to have been a blockbuster.
Yeah, and I mean, you said it yourself, and Stallone has said it. Even now, he's like, they didn't know what they were doing. Was it that action? Was it that comedy? Was it a mix? Was it a buddy comedy action movie, or was it not? And they just kind of like left it lurking like in the middle. And yeah, if it would have been much easier if they just picked a direction. Mine is just more time in Mega City.
Oh yeah.
It looked like the Underworld in like Demolition Man, except it was huge. It would just seem like it was like they do this weird thing sometimes in dystopian futures or past where they make everyone basically look like 1985 Manhattan. Where it's just like flat tops and like weird hair and leather and jewelry and nose earrings and stuff.
Blue curacao.
Blue curacao everywhere. Jack in the Box made it there. You see that?
Yep.
And we only got like one time in a building in Heavenly, whatever that was. And we got a couple times in the judge's building. But other than that, we're in the Cursed Earth and like the same like boardrooms. I would have liked a little more exploration into Mega City 1.
Yeah, I'm there with you because the scenery, every piece we saw was amazing. Even just the sort of that opening gang fight
Block War.
Block War. Yeah, Block War. That opening part of that, seeing in the buildings, seeing in the alleys, seeing all that was amazing.
Yeah, I loved it. Block War. You with us? Yeah. All right.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And we do usually say that movies need to be shorter. I feel like this movie could have done 5 more minutes with more sort of more of a tour around the city.
Yeah, it was sub hour and a half. You said 88 minutes.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And I said in the beginning, like every single time I watch this, 3/4 of the way through, I stopped taking notes. I just ended up watching the movie. 88 minutes is just perfect. Yeah, 5 minutes more would have been even better. You sounded like you had a decent spin-off idea, so you want me to go first?
I have like so many spin-off ideas, and none of them are really that fleshed out. So let me see what you got.
Oh, mine isn't fleshed out at all. I just want the stories of the other cities, especially like how Aspen became a prison, which seems impossible that place would become a prison because, it's got the high ground and it's cold. Armando Sante's sweating in prison in Aspen. I don't really understand it.
Some people just always sweat.
But then there's the other mega city in LA, and then there's Texas City.
Yeah.
I just want to know what's going on in these places. They don't have a Judge Dredd. They might have a different judge, and let's find out their story.
Yeah, I had that on my list as well. I thought that this easily could be something that's on like a Netflix or a HBO or something like that with like several seasons because I want the prequel. First off, I want the prequel. Absolutely. I want to understand, how did we get to this place? Like that I think could be the most interesting.
You're right.
Like there's obviously in the opening intro, it talks about the like climate went off the rails and then the society went off the rails. I want to see that. Like that sounds amazing. So give me the prequel. Give me one season, whatever, 10 hours in each of these cities. Give me more time in the cursed earth. Give me time in Aspen. I think that the jail scene, I'm sure there's a whole lot of things going on there. So I thought this whole world, I really felt like we were just scratching the surface. Like we got snippets of so much potential out there. And I'm kind of shocked that they haven't just made a 5-season Judge Dredd show that does all this, because it seems perfect for something like that.
I'm ready. That sounds phenomenal. I'd also be ready to not have Judge Dredd involved. Just call it Mega City 2 and let's see what's going on.
He's just one person in the much bigger story. Like, I don't need him to be involved. I just want to know what's going on here.
I totally agree. Mega City 2, Season 3.
Yep. Yeah. It's such an obvious idea that I really can't believe that this isn't a thing.
But you're also right too. Your prequel, like how did we get here? It's very Mad Maxy, I guess. Not here. And how do we even get to these basically 3 cities in the United States?
Mm-hmm.
And
like building to them getting like super overcrowded and all that stuff. It's
$65 million for a space meant for 20. That's an intense, crowded, overcrowded population.
Yeah. So I want to see all of it. I want it all.
How do you think they get down from? They don't need to. Like you remember when Rob Schneider was going to his home, his new home, and he flew by the pool and the rich folks.
Yeah, right.
Do they don't have to go down the elevator, I assume, right? They just, because things can fly, they can just take off and stay high. They never have to go low.
Yeah, you probably never even go below like the 80th floor if you have money.
And it becomes like a street in New York, right? You're above 85th Ave or whatever. You're like, oh man, you're below the 85th floor. Right. Okay.
Yeah, do you even see the sun down there?
I don't think we can come over.
Yeah. Right.
Any notes we didn't get to?
Let's see. We didn't touch on this, but the Judge Dredd font. I'm a font guy, and I think they took some of this from the comic book. But that font, when the Judge Dredd title comes on, just great font.
Phenomenal font. Very powerful. Do you know who designed Judge Dredd's costume?
No, who did?
Someone by the name of Gianni Versace.
No
Versace
kidding.
Designed Judge Dredd's uniform for the movie.
It looks sharp.
Yeah, and the codpiece is bulletproof.
It makes sense. It's an amazing, amazing outfit.
I feel like I wouldn't deactivate shields around super dangerous criminals. Like when when the warden went in to talk to Rico, take down the shields. Here's this. It's just
you have those shields for a reason.
And guns trained on him to shield. He's any little moment he will take advantage of, and you can't just like walk up and hand him something you don't know what it is.
Yeah, people are down.
The ABC Warriors. Some people gave him some guff for being named lazily, but it's not. Do you know what the ABC stands for?
What is it?
Atomic, bacterial, and chemical resistant. Like they don't get touched, so it's meant to. It's apparently not able to withstand a Rob Schneider. That's R. So
it didn't get that far.
ABCs get covered. Any atomic blast or bacterial infection or chemical, these things aren't affected. ABC. It makes it seem like it's a dumb name.
No, it's not dumb at all.
Yeah,
it's brilliant.
And how about this? Do you know the flight? They were flying below the depth of the tunnel in daylight. You said the daylight tunnel was 90 feet. I think you said last time.
Something like that. Yeah.
Like that. They were only flying because of the weather 60 feet above the ground.
Wow.
Very low.
That's super low. Like I feel like I could throw something that high.
You can.
I could hit it.
Yeah, and they did. It wasn't that hard. But it also feels like flying over the cursed earth. You should probably wait until whatever storm subsides because
you don't want to get. I wouldn't mess with that.
And last thing, I like how Judge Dredd has no problem killing internal affair judges. All the judges after him, he's just like murder, murder, dead. I don't care. blow him up, shoot him, fine.
Other notes I had, there's one scene where Dredd is counting and running at the same time. That would be so hard. And not just running, like sprinting. That's a feat of, it's not strength, but some sort of athletic prowess that is, blew me away. I was like, wow, look at that.
When they're running through the tunnel?
Yeah. And counting all that, it's amazing. I love the Stallone yelling guilty right before shooting somebody. I thought that's just like a great, very simple catchphrase, like guilty, bam.
Well, also Bolo, non-white people in this movie, because I feel like the judge is taking over and just dispensing justice based on how they see things. Didn't work out well for a lot of people because it's just white people left. Yeah. Not a great look. Did you like the vernacular? Holy Grud and Holy Drock?
Yeah.
I went deep into that. Apparently those are like it's a new religion there, so you're basically saying like "Holy Christ" or whatever. It's
I like that. I mean, obviously, when you have like a comic book to draw on, you get to pull in a lot of those fun little things that someone's clearly spent a lot of time on.
And that's all I got.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only other thing is, I was just glad that they made an R-rated movie like this. Like, I feel like a lot of movies like this, they would just go PG-13. I do kind of think this was a PG-13 movie, but for that charred human that they're spit roasting at the cannibal's house, that I think that might have pushed it into being rated R. But I just like that they went for the R.
I like that they went for the R too. I wonder if One Change would be a blockbuster. If that was, I mean, there was no like nudity or really graphic violence. I wonder if they did PG-13 because if they geared it towards kids, if it would have been more of a blockbuster.
Probably would have. That's a good call.
I don't know, because they didn't really use the R.
No, literally, I think it was like I saw that human.
Yeah, that was it.
Cooked, and I was like, oh, there's the R, but nothing else really made me think R.
Yeah, I don't think anything else really. I mean, nobody even really got shot that you could see. They were just like, boom, I gotcha. And you fall down. All right, this was awesome. I'm so glad we did this. My favorite actor again. What are we on to next episode?
We are going to roll right into another double feature, action star double feature. We are going a Steven Seagal double feature. And we're kicking it off with the classic, absolute classic, Hard to Kill.
I can't wait for this. This is like back in the wheelhouse. My dad and I, when I was like 8, would just rent Seagal movies from the video store, and it doesn't even matter. I mean, they're all the same sometimes. It feels like it's just he's gonna snap a bunch of necks and be out for justice. I think that was the name of a movie of his. Essentially, that's what he's out for every single time.
Yeah, and they're all fantastic.
This was great, even better than the rest, and I can't wait for this.
I can't wait for it either. I just watched it recently, and it's great. It's phenomenal.
That's awesome. All right, this is the last. Later.
Yeah, later.